Yes. Is everyone in here now?
Just about to allow everyone in, and then we'll just be on the WhatsApp chat, okay?
Okay. Ah, here they are. Just waiting for everyone to connect their audio. And we've still got a few people joining us. Hopefully there's people coming in all the time, but we might get going because it's 7:30 and we've got a lot to get through tonight. So hi everyone, my name's Louise Hislop. Thanks so much for coming along tonight. Thanks for taking the time to register and to send your topics into us for discussion. We've got a real lot to get through tonight. But firstly, I'd like to pass to Michael Regan to acknowledge country.
Thanks, Louise. Can I start by acknowledging our traditional owners and start today's proceedings by acknowledging those custodians of our lands, of elders past and present, on which we celebrate today, and other Aboriginal people who may be present. I express my gratitude that we share this land today and my sorrow for the cost of that sharing. I do hope that in the spirit of reconciliation, we can move forward to a place of justice, healing and partnership as we walk gently on this land together.
Thanks, Michael. My name is Louise Hislop, as I said. I'm going to be moderating tonight. And I thought just to start, I'd give you a little bit of an introduction to how this evening's going to run. It's actually a start of a new conversation. It's really important for the people of DY to feel included in what's happening. And this is actually an opportunity for you to speak yourselves. It's not going to be about us. It's going to be about you. We want to listen. We want to hear your ideas. Many of you have sent in topics. So there's many topics that we're going to address. There's things like DY Lagoon, the plastics in the lagoon. I'm not sure how many of you saw the pictures on social media just the other week. There's the open space and dogs and small business, music, the arts, and of course the big one at the moment that's on everyone's lips, and that's the Strand. There's a lot of misinformation, of course, that you see on social media. So I think it's really good to have these one-on-one connections where people can hear what's going on and actually, you know, air their concerns. Let us all hear what your concerns are, and we can work out together what can be done. So basically it's about conversations, connections, and about making your council closer to you. With that, I would like to introduce you properly this time to Mayor Michael Regan. Michael Regan was our first popularly elected mayor in 2008 and has been mayor of either Warringah Council or Northern Beaches Council ever since. Michael, if I was to give you 30 seconds to tell everyone here what you're most proud of in your time in council, what would you say?
There's obviously two parts to my story, I guess, in terms of there's the Warringah Council story, and then we merged into the amalgamation and we made Warringah Council number one, and we made the community proud of it, given its history and where it had come from, in terms of, you know, everyone talks about it being sacked so many times, not transparent, corrupt, all that sort of stuff. And we did the exact opposite and turned it into a council that people were proud of. Then we've translated that, I think, finally into the Northern Beaches Council, and we're making huge steps forward, and we're bringing the promise of what the amalgamation was going to deliver, that the state government boldly promised about savings and capacity, and we can actually demonstrate that really clearly. We are making savings, improving services, and that we are doing all those things that were promised, I guess. But there's a lot more to go, I guess, and there's a lot more to that story. So in 30 seconds, that's the best I can do for you, because I know we are genuinely keen to hear from our constituents and hear their ideas and hear their concerns and hear their positives, negatives, the whole lot. So I think that's the most important part for the evening.
Fantastic. Well, thanks, Michael. And I'd like to introduce you to Councillor Sue Hines. Sue Hines is a former Deputy Mayor of Warringah Council. She is a recipient of the Minister's Award for Women in Local Government, chairperson of Women and Children First, which is a crisis accommodation provider, and many other feathers to her cap. I found out today that she used to be president of Warringah Chamber of Commerce. So I'm finding new things out every day. But Sue, in 30 seconds or less, what are you most proud of in your time in council?
Oh, thanks, Louise. Like Michael, I'm proud of in the time that I was on Warringah, watching, I mean, you come to council with a certain attitude of, you know, I'm going to fix this and do that. And we certainly got to do things, but we had an amazing team on in that last term that was just extraordinary. So a lot of things were achieved that we were really proud of, culminating in the top award for the state for councils across New South Wales. And currently on the Northern Beaches Council, I'm really proud that we're finally getting to a point where we're choosing the best from the previous councils and creating one new council with a really solid foundation. Not perfect yet, still got a way to go, but really proud to see that we're at a point now where we really can be progressive and have great ideas and start thinking about things differently, which is why things like this is so important. So that's my 30 seconds. Thanks, Louise.
Thanks, Sue. So very soon we're going to get up to the listening part, but I thought it might be useful. When I told people I was running for council, they immediately just said, how does it all work? Like, who am I voting for? Like, you know, it's so big, like who gets in and all that sort of thing. So basically the council is divided into 5 wards. So there's Pittwater, Narrabeen, Forest, Curl ward, which includes DY, Brookvale, Narrowena and many other suburbs. And then there's the Manly ward. So you're all in the Curl ward and you will be electing 3 people. We have 3 people here. There's Sue, myself and Ben, who I'll introduce soon. But there'll be other people going for election as well. So you will end up with 3 representatives for your ward, and so will all the other wards. So in total, there's 15 councillors, one of whom will be mayor. So that's basically how it works. On our ticket, Sue Hines is going to be number 1. I will be number 2, and Ben will be number 3. So just a really quick thing about me is I'm probably best known for starting Voices of Warringah, which I started to try and give the community a voice, and then running Zali Steggall's successful campaign in 2019. And I've worked for her for 2 years, and now I'm running for council. But I'm also an ordinary community member, run a business with my husband for 30 years in the community, mum of 3, and volunteered for Curl Lagoon Friends for 30 years. So working the other side of council, I want to get on council and ensure that the two are connecting, and that, you know, particularly volunteer groups are well connected with, I mean, everyone's just so busy and it's hard to keep up with what council's doing. So I want to be sort of that person in council that people can really connect with. And then number 3 on the ticket is Ben Grozio. Ben is a former teacher. He currently runs his own tech-based business in the education sector. He's a really busy dad of 3 kids, 3 little surfy dude kids, lives in DY, and he's an energizer bunny. He's a real doer. So Ben, in 30 seconds, why have you decided to run?
Thanks, Louise. Evening, everyone. Yeah, look, it was a real privilege to be asked by Michael to join the Your Northern Beaches team a couple of months ago, and it's been a great ride ever since. But I guess I've used this a few times now, and I describe myself, I think, as one of the Northern Beaches' best customers, and that's to say that I just love everything that the Northern Beaches has to offer, and whether that be in the water or in the natural surrounds. I think I'm a big supporter of the local business. I run a business which is headquartered out of the Northern Beaches, and when you mix that with the fact that I like to think I've got an opinion and a position on everything, and I'm a really curious individual, but also a great listener, it just seemed to be the right fit. So it was a bit of a surprise to be asked, but again, a real privilege, and I'm happy to be here and look forward to hearing what you got to say. Thanks, Louise.
Great. All right, so now we're on to the bit you all came for, which is for you to have your concerns addressed. If anyone would like to, anyone that sent in an issue, you're very welcome to speak. So I can see a couple of the names here of people that sent in the questions. We might start with DY Lagoon. I'm not sure if the people that sent in that, there was a few people. Is there anyone here that would like to just speak about Curl Lagoon at all? No? Okay, well, basically they sent in questions about the cleaning up Curl Lagoon, what can be done, the plastics and the access of DY Lagoon. So I might throw that one over to Sue Hines.
Yeah, hi. Just to say, this is DY Lagoon that we're actually talking about.
Was I saying Curl?
You were. That's
Sorry.
a habit for you. I know.
I always say Curl with Lagoon, sorry.
So just to give everyone a bit of background, I've been on, in the past council, I was on 3 of the 4 lagoon committees, DY, Curl and Manly Lagoon Committee. And currently I'm on the flood committee. So the sediment and the runoff of DY Lagoon has always been something that's under massive pressure. Obviously, over the years, as more and more buildings have been built, and also the fact that whenever any buildings get renovated, the whole sediment and runoff is coming down off a catchment all around the lagoon. So there are many drains that filter down into DY Lagoon. And there's also historically just rubbish that's come in through different drains and obviously through the lagoon itself. So council does have gross pollutant traps. It's got the usual capturing, if you like, of sediment in particular. There is a very interesting drain that runs under Oaks Avenue and then down the side where the walkway is towards DY Parade. Underneath there is a massive drain that quite a lot of work has gone on underneath Oaks Avenue as well, that people probably may remember if you've lived in the area for a while, was fenced off, but that was all major works there. Very grateful for the Friends of DY Lagoon, who do an amazing job of trying to make sure that the weeds aren't getting through, and also that they do a regular cleanup there. And there's also the amazing cleanup crew who come down there. I know that council has also organised in the past with other groups. In particular, I can think of SIMS, which is the marine science people who come down and do cleanups. But I do think, particularly after the lockdown, where so many people have been out getting takeaway, there's so much rubbish that sadly has blown all over the place, that we do need to do something.
Yes, and I think we were talking earlier today that you know, we would like to get council involved with the community in a big cleanup. I know it's stressing a lot of people, the amount of pollution that's there at the moment. And I know there's people on social media who are really keen to get there, and Northern Beaches cleanup crew will probably organise one, but it would be great to have the support of council with that as well.
Can I just jump in there, because Louise, can I just jump in there, because Sue probably wouldn't know this, Councillor Hines. The staff do a lot of work days themselves, like they do volunteer hours themselves, and they do cleanups and bush regeneration, like with their work teams and the like. But since COVID, all the bush regeneration, all these things since like March last year have all stopped, and they came back. So there's a plan to get back to doing that, and in a tsunami of, if you like, of events. And so it's really opportune that you mentioned that, because there is a desire from both the staff and their teams to do these things and get back to doing more of it. And just on the basic things too, like you mentioned, Sue mentioned the litter and things. I am a bit parochial about that, because we have plans in place, and I'm happy to talk about that more, about how we deal with that over summer and stuff. So, yeah,
that's great. Okay, so I should have mentioned before, there is a chat function there. So if you wanted to put questions or comments in there, you're welcome to. We may not get to everything tonight, but we're happy to get back to you after the event. So the next thing that was sent in was a comment about connections and community inclusion. That was sent in by Emily. Emily, did you want to say anything or?
Hello, how are you going?
Hi, good, thanks, Emily. How are you?
Good, good. So when I posted that, I guess that was just a general area that I was interested in. I didn't have a specific question formulated, but I suppose I do a lot of work with DY Surf Club, and I'm always looking for new and progressive ways that we can work with council just to make life better generally for the community.
Absolutely. Well, I think, you know, I'm hoping that tonight is actually the start of something like that. We can, I really think council needs to be proactive. They have a really great community consultation program, and it really is top class, but people living in the community, I know, are just too busy to keep up with it all. And there's always so many issues, especially in DY. So I think, you know, we can look at doing things differently and holding these sort of things on a regular basis and just really getting those two-way conversations going. That was part of the reason I decided to stand, was because I just felt that we could do a little bit more. Ben, you might want to have a quick word about, you know, your Facebook group.
Yeah, thanks, Louise. A funny story, the Facebook group started because my 6-year-old lost his pet chicken, and it was a bit inadvertently turned into a group with more than 4,000 people. And just so you know, the chicken was found somewhere at the back of Cromer, and it was a happy ending about that. So old Tofu came home. But yeah, look, we've got a really positive community on that Facebook community group, and for me, what it's done is unearth just so much of the positivity that goes on in the DY community. One thing that I've always really wanted to see was this sort of connection between, I guess, just the different facets of DY, and just that richness of culture and the people that make it what it is, and just to celebrate that. Sue was saying earlier, the Councillor Hines was saying earlier about walking around DY when she lived there at some stage, and hearing the wonderful singing coming out of Tongan Church. And we obviously have, again, just so many diverse communities who bring different foods and different experiences, just different worldviews, which is something that I'm very passionate about my own children getting, and that is a diverse worldview. And in relation to, I guess, the perception that people have of DY, one of the things that drives me completely nuts is when myself, as someone who moved to DY, and we're on the DY side of the DY Curl Hill, to have people I call friends say me, "Oh, you can call it Curl. You're close enough." And I was like, why the hell would I want to call it Curl? Like, we live in DY, we love DY and everything about it. And I think that pride of place is something which is there. And again, a little old Facebook group has seemingly unearthed that. It's really positive, the conversations that go on there to a large extent. And I think it's bigger and better things for this community if we all put our heads together and come up with great ways to make it even better.
Yep, sure. And I think our hope is to you know, include more of the culturally and linguistically diverse people into these conversations. We did actually reach out to some of the churches and even the mosque at DY, but you know, obviously people aren't going to just join like that, but I think it's something that we really want to work at so that the whole community is connected. So I hope that answers your question, Emily.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's really positive. I think, you know, there's so much we can do, even down to the signage at the beach, you know, and the beach safety messages in various languages. I'd love to see, you know, welcome to DY painted on the side of the surf club in all the different languages. Just advocate that type of welcoming and inclusive environment.
I think, Emily, nice. Can I just say one thing there, Emily? I know the principal from DY Public School quite well through my my line of work. And one of the most delightful things about walking into that school is, or it certainly was, I haven't been there for a little while now, but there was a sort of visual depiction of how many languages were spoken in that school community. And it's such a wonderful thing to be celebrated. And it's funny how we almost delineate between the beach and the culture. And of course there's a beach culture and a surf culture, and I'm absolutely part of that culture, but it would be so wonderful to see that blend and mix in together, and to get an understanding that people don't gravitate towards not everyone gravitates towards the ocean. It's not the be all and end all. There's so much more to where we live than just water sports. So it'd be great to sort of put a spotlight on that.
Yeah, great.
Is it possible just to ask a question? I'm not sure if there's an order of events or questions.
Paul, if you would like to, yeah, we'll let you do it. But is there a put your hand up thing? So if you go to reactions, you can put your hand up.
Oh, okay, right. Sorry.
But yes, please do.
There already is 2 people with their
We're back
hands
at
up.
DIY
Are there?
public.
Okay, so I haven't seen that.
We're back at DIY public, Paul. You've got to put your hand up.
So where do I see, yeah, so Nicole and Michael. Okay, we might, we'll come back to you, Paul.
Yeah.
So Nicole, what did you want to say?
Oh, hi. I just had a couple of questions. I'm not actually sure if you're able to help tonight or not, or, you know, and they sort of tie in together, I guess. The first thing is the overdevelopment in DY, and is there going to be more development happening? And one of the main reasons I ask is I've been on the Northern Beaches my whole life. I went to DY primary school. My nephews go there. So obviously I was at DY when we had both sides of the road. And obviously they've only got one side of the road now. With all the like the overdevelopment that we have and all the families that are going to be coming, the school is starting to get bigger. Are they going to be getting the other side back? Is this going to be possible? So I guess the questions are, is there going to be any more development happening in DY? And with that, if that happens, is the school going to be able to handle it and get the other side back, basically?
Do you want me to take that one, Louise?
Yeah, that's one for you, Michael.
It's a good question, Nicole. And so what I'll tell you is, yes, DY will get more development, approximately another 980 something units, I think is the number, the actual number. There is a number that's there. It's been planned probably for since the 60s or 70s. They designate the state government with council at the time in the 60s, basically designated DY to be where the units would go for the growth of the area, and they planned their infrastructure around that. And you're right, what you say about the school being across 2 sides of the road as part of their planning. They got both sides of the road and plan to have a school there in the future should it need to go there. So that is definitely there. The number where DY exceeds, it won't exceed the capacity because we've got good planning controls in place now, so it won't exceed its whatever that 900 number is. And essentially there was a plan that was updated back in, I think, 2014, Sue Hines, I think it was, give or take a few years, which showed very clearly what that looked like in terms of physical buildings. And it showed, for example, where the Master Builders Club is there and Redmond Road Plaza, and that could go up to, I think, about 6 to 7 stories. It showed across the road that whole site from the police station down Fisher Road where the salvos are, back to Pittwater Road. So that triangle site there could be around 9 to 12 stories. And then it showed where the old Woolworths is there in Oaks Avenue, that building, which was sold a few years ago, was going to be up to 9 stories. I think it was, Sue, if you correct me, it's fine, but it was only 9 stories if they built the road between Pacific Parade and Oaks Avenue. So roughly where the bottle shop was there, and where currently, I think you've got upstairs, you've got the golf place. So they were going to put a road has to go through there at some stage when we hit a certain capacity, and that's either on council to do or it's on the developer to do if they go to that 9 stories. Otherwise, we just do it and that's their loss. So, and the other road to go between there is between Oaks and Howard Avenue, where the St Kevin's car park is, and there's a building to go there of 5 stories across the entire site. And then there's a small additional 5 stories, 5 stories that goes above and roughly in the centre of that site to make it 10. But there's a road that goes between, hard up against the fence of where the church is there, so to connect it all. And the RMS have been working on plans for quite some time, or Transport for New South Wales, I think it's called now, have been working on plans on when certain targets are hit, then they change the road capacity around it to be one way here and etc. So that's what we do. That's what their planning's doing. The B1's got capacity to go up in terms of infrastructure, as has the new DY to Chatswood service, turn up and go every 10 minutes now, 9 stops. That's got capacity to really build. And the school has got both sides of the road ready to grow and so to use both sides. So that is a definite. And I've seen plans for that should it need to happen.
Does that answer your question, Nicole?
Yeah, that does. I mean,
Feel free to send us an email.
Or if you've got more questions and we've got time later, fire away.
Yeah, I guess I'm concerned, if hearing about the St Kevin's car park, and I mean, that's probably one that I'd be concerned about, considering that car park is so busy as it is. Like not having that parking there would make things very difficult, especially for people going to church.
Yep. So on that, the parking was guaranteed. So there's 162 spaces, I think it is, and that's guaranteed to stay as part of any development. So they'll just drop it to a level under, and they give certain access which the church doesn't have at the moment. They've guaranteed certain sort of parking and arrangements and things for them which they don't currently have. So that's guaranteed, and it's free public parking.
It's interesting. So I've asked Michael a lot of these questions over the years, and I feel like I'm really lucky that I have an understanding of a lot of this stuff, but I'm also just really aware that most people just don't, you just don't know what's going on a lot of the time. You feel like you're just sort of walking around in the dark and there's things going up. So it's just really wonderful that Michael's taken the time to come and meet with you all and hopefully address lots of your questions. So Paul, you've got your hand up, but you did also send in a topic of public spaces and dog areas. So is that what you're going to ask about? Or
I think I've just sort of, based on the conversation, I think it's just a good thing just to, it's just been an interesting time watching how the community is changing and being sort of stuck in your LGA, realising what a great LGA you've got through COVID, but also just having the time to look around and see what's going on a little bit more in the community. Like DY is really changing. It's funny watching it in the mornings. I'm on the line here with my friend Jock. We watch kind of people dancing in the mornings, kind of like they would at Bondi, to Indian music. I would never have seen that as a kid. There's a lot of development going on. A lot of the development infrastructure behind the decisions doesn't seem to be well thought through. On the streets where I live between Delmar Parade and Carew Street, there are giant trucks kind of like making their way through corners that say no trucks beyond 3 tonne and over. And there are kind of double trucks kind of coming up and turning around those corners. I feel like the development at the base of Delmar Parade and Pittwater Road is a huge one, and it just hasn't been identified to the inhabitants exactly what's going to happen. And a lot of these decisions are made by council and we feel divorced from them. The move to change DY, the front of DY along into a one-way, that decision feels to me just really confusing. And I just don't feel like DY is kind of set up for the infrastructure to be able to cope with that around Avon Road.
I might just interrupt you there, Paul, but I think everyone's nodding their heads and you know, I think people really relate to what you're saying. So
Get to the question is what I'm hearing.
Have you got a question, or were you just like,
yeah.
Did you want Michael to
think,
sort of?
I
Okay.
think what I'd like to know, I feel quite divorced from council. I really feel connected with my place in the culture and the community, but I feel divorced from council. So I suppose the question is, like, COVID's thrown up the need to be agile and the need to bring community with you. I don't understand why every single dog owner is walking up and down a 6 metre wide area at Curl, and there are these vast fields that you're not allowed to go to. But I do appreciate the fact that the rangers have allowed that they're not going to book you there. But along those, along the Curl Lagoon, like, there is just reams of space that could be used in a time kind of based, like maybe 7 to 9. The dog walkers could own that, rather than just trying to block everybody into the Curl dog area, which is completely over patronised. I think what I'm asking is there a way to connect to people like me who care, but just feel divorced from council? And I'd just like you to consider people like me. I feel very confident in my friend Louise running for council and being part of the council. But I'd like to think that we can find a way just to be a little bit more lateral in bringing the community into the council and the council to the community before decisions are made where these ridiculous flower pots are set up and all of a sudden it's a one-way area in between the beach and the cafes.
Okay, thanks, Paul. We might give
Do you care to comment?
Would you like to reply to that, Michael? Or
yeah, I think it'd be handy for Sue to jump in as well, because there's a number of questions in there. Just quickly on the development one, in terms of those trucks, you're right, I've been caught out, you know, as well when going down there, and the trucks, I had to reverse that because the big B double the big truck basically, that's B double, but yeah, so it stops. So the reality is that the police work with so once the conditions of consent are set for the development, the police work with the traffic management plan so that they're aware, and council rangers are subsequently made aware, and they can ignore those 3 ton signs, but only for set times. So there's actually a very specific plan that goes behind it, and it is an inconvenience. So
Thanks.
At the moment, we've got complaints at Whale Beach, with it's happening all the time on Whale Beach Road, and it's quite bad. There's a lot of homes going in up there for whatever reason. So it's a problem all across the LGA. So, and it's a nuisance, full stop. But there is something going to. In terms of the connection, I do, and Sue would jump in at any time, because it's a question we always ask, like, how can we engage? We do so much engagement. We now have social media. We didn't have social media 10 years ago. We now have it. We've got those different platforms of social media. Some are on Insta, some are on Facebook. Should we have council staff monitoring it all day? And is that how we engage? And do you only get a certain section of the community? Do you have committees set up of council? All these things that we kind of do. We don't have a Manly Daily anymore. That was a good place to put forward and stuff. The reality is there is no, and some people just don't read their emails, or they don't read the emails that we send out every Saturday morning. You might not be connected to that, but it's got a list of things. So we actually struggle ourselves with it, and I'd love to hear the solution. And if you've got it, you'll be a billionaire, because every council across Australia and every council and every government organisation across the world struggles with this. And yeah, so I guess the good thing is that councils like myself and Sue make ourselves available as much as we can. We don't always agree or with the, you know, we don't always agree, I guess, but we have to make decisions, I guess. We get the best advice, we consult. And you mentioned the dog thing on Curl. Back in 2000, Sue was a part of that when she was a ward councillor for B Ward, I think it was known then. And we set about, could we put dogs on the beach at certain times? The environment people came to us and said, it can't be done for these reasons. Okay, fair enough. And we walked away and we created a master plan around it. So that happened, and now some other things have jumped up that didn't get implemented, so we're trying to fix that. Can we do other areas? We've looked at that. So, but how do we engage is the biggest point. So how is it effective? So if you've got the answers, we're all ears.
So I think that DY lagoon area, I think that's the area you're talking about, Paul. I think that's is that a wildlife sanctuary or something?
No,
Michael?
it's Curl Lagoon.
Oh, in Kilculligan. Okay, yeah.
Belka, where there is a dog park, there's certain sections where it has to be on leash, as Paul was pointing out, as opposed to not. So yeah, and there's reasons for it. And dogs are curious; they go sniffing around, and there's small animals and birds and things and living there, and things that I didn't know about until we did this consultation. But it's a learning experience. But how do we communicate that? So, and how do we make your park better there? Because I think it's one of the most used parks in the LGA. Yeah. How do we make it better? And that's something I think that all councils want to do more and do better, because COVID, everyone's bought a dog.
Yes. Yeah, and a bike.
Yeah. Can I chime in here? Is that possible?
Yeah. What were you going to talk about, David?
I was just going to give some feedback about community engagement, because I hear where Paul's coming from. I do feel that the community has been very disconnected from council. And you're asking for what are ideas to create a greater connection. To be honest, Michael, that would be to look at the numbers when people do respond to formal things, like when you guys ask the community about the development at the Strand. The numbers clearly indicated when you ask that question that the format that you guys have presented and implemented was not well received by the community. So when council continues on that path, and I know you're a major person behind it, Michael, when council continues on a path when the community speaks up, that's when we do feel greatly disengaged from council. Okay,
David, there's a couple of other people that put the Strand as their some of their issues. So Brigitte or Della or John McGee, do any of you want to say anything about this?
Sorry, hi, Bridget here.
Hi.
No, not particularly. I'm following all the comments, and I noted that it is a temporary exercise. And I assume the council is listening to all the comments and see what happens then. So that's my standing at this point.
Okay. I suppose then, who would like to answer?
We've got Alex and Amanda, and I can answer some of David's points, but I'm happy to hear from Alex and Amanda first, whatever is easiest.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look. Thanks. Just wanted to talk a little bit about my background. I moved to Australia 10 years ago, and I have a European background. And I mean, when I hear you talking about that council and the community, or like some of you feel disconnected from it, I think actually I'm impressed in Australia, and especially in DY, what is the community involvement in the council. That I didn't have this in Sweden or Germany or Spain, where I lived before. So that's just incredible from my point of view. And in regards to the Strand especially, I think the community was asked and was, so the council actually got in contact with me because I'm a resident of DY, and I feel quite heard of the council. And I went to the council meetings as well and gave my opinion in regards to the Strand. So I kind of have to contradict to what David says, that the community didn't like this proposal, or that the council didn't listen to it. In my opinion, it is a small community of DY residents who, like, for different reasons, do not like the Strand to become completely closed or two-way because of, for example, noise complaints and so on. But I think these people who are against it have to come up with alternatives. And the idea is to leave it with a two-way lane with all the traffic, all the Harleys, all the tourist drives, and we have to do something against it, because life on DY Parade, Richmond Avenue, Lower Clyde Road has been unbearable in recent years because of all the tourist traffic. People check out the surf or just using the Strand to show off their engine. And it has been more and more quiet. I know I'm aware of some residents get more noise, but I just invite these residents to come to DY Parade Richmond Avenue when it was a two-way lane. It was unbearable. That's my opinion.
Thanks, thanks, Alex. Amanda,
Could I just say, why should we reduce the amount of noise on the north side of DY, but not and allow for greater noise on the south side of DY? I respect your opinion. I think Australia needs to become more European, but I'm sorry, the one way has created huge disruption for a very large number of people who live on the affected streets. And it's not just a small number of people.
Thanks, David. We might have, we don't want this to turn into a battle, but Amanda, were you going to say something about the Strand?
Yeah, look, definitely about the Strand. I think it's a positive thing. I think there's obviously things that need to be tweaked, but I really think council's done a great thing. And most people I speak to from the community really enjoy it. And I agree with what Alex has said as well. I think there was engagement, there was time to provide feedback. And I think it's awesome that we've got to this point that we do have this beautiful, one-way street. So that's basically, I just really wanted to put something positive.
Thanks, Amanda.
Thanks. So, Louise, I'll just wrap up something what David said and so Alex and Amanda said. So just to cover it off, and Paul touched on, and happy to continue to talk about it, but I know there's other topics to talk about. But look, David, you're right about the numbers. I mean, you had one number saying close it all down. You had numbers saying keep it one way, and other numbers saying keep it as is. Sorry, change it one way or keep it as is. If you added the numbers up, as the consultation said, if you added the numbers up, the positives outweighed the negatives. And so on the balance, councillors said, look, we accept that there are people who do want to go the extreme and close it all down, but we think we can trial doing the one way. It is going to help businesses. Like as of next Monday, they'll be able to spill across all that footway, which is what it was originally designed and intended to do. So that will now you'll see that happen as of Monday next week as we come out of lockdown. So, but the councillors took that. If we took the most popular route on every decision we made, then there'd probably be no resident parking stickers for every household who pays rates if you go to every resident instead, which could be a good thing. Dogs would be on every beach on the whole of our peninsula because there's more probably people who want dogs on a beach and there's no balance type thing in that regard. And so it's not always the most popular, I guess, and it's up to the councillors to make an informed decision. It is a trial.
Michael, sorry.
David, if you wouldn't mind putting your hand up.
We've gone through this exercise before at council and I met with you and we heard your concerns. Council's still implementing the trial. There's some Paul raised thing about additional crossings or Avon Road and the like becoming busier, and that's absolutely right. And so we've got funding, a funding bid with the government at the moment, just waiting on them to approve it, and so then we can roll those things through as well, hopefully prior to summer. That's the plan. So those things will happen. And then there's other things that we can do in the future. So as Amanda said, it can do some tweaks. So yes, there are going to be some residents who will be impacted, but also we're already seeing changes in driver behaviour. We're seeing the changes of drivers not the things, and the statistics will bear that out as they come out. So, and that's what we're doing. It is a trial, as I said. So I think, and Sue, I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but you were a part of the decision-making process, and it was all but one councillor or all but two councillors supported it.
Yeah. This is a trial. The sad thing about the trial is that obviously with lockdown, this all was funded from the New South Wales government's shared spaces program, and many councils had to apply for grant funding to run different types of opening up of roads and all kinds of things into activating for business and pedestrians and everything like that. The sad thing about this is that the actual testing won't really start until the businesses start opening up. That's the reason why the footpath is made wider and all of that. And then going back to the comment earlier about making it more European, we have an incredible climate. And for hospitality businesses near the beach, no one wants to sit inside. Everyone wants to sit outside. So it's trying to see how well we can help those businesses recuperate after 18 months and 2 lockdowns that we've had on the northern beaches. And I just wish it's taken so long before it actually can become what it was actually designed to do. Yeah, and it's been done in other council areas. I mean, we're trialling it down at Manly as well.
Okay, thanks, Sue. We might move on. Matt asked, had 3 sort of topics that he was interested in: small business support, youth next generation, and music and the arts. Are you here, Matt?
Handling a few kids at the moment. So same as the other guys, that was just things I was interested in hearing about rather than having specific questions. I think Councillor Hines and the Mayor hear enough from me at the moment.
Oh, okay. Well, I think Ben and Sue might be good to talk about small business. Maybe starting with you, Sue.
Actually, no, I'd like Ben to start, because Ben is a young entrepreneurial type of business owner. We have a lot of incredible entrepreneurs on the Northern Beaches. We have the 2nd highest amount of small business owners on the Northern Beaches in New South Wales. And I really think someone like Ben should actually start off, because when you are that full of energy, you have such a fascinating way of seeing the business landscape.
Thanks, Sue. Yeah, look, I'm really curious and interested when it comes to, frankly, supercharging the collaboration and network that goes on between businesses here on the Northern Beaches. My background is small business. I was a professional tennis coach. I used to run tennis clubs in Sydney in the UK. I also oversee an 83-year-old manufacturing business, which has been the case for the last 18 months since my dad passed away. But the main, I guess, the star of the show is Class Cover, which is a tech startup that helps schools manage casual teachers. And with that, I guess, sort of background, what I've seen, which is just such a beautiful thing around the Sydney business culture, is this willingness to what I call pay it forward. And that is that most people who have made a whole bunch of mistakes, like I have zigzagged their way to some level of sustainability as a business person, they're typically willing to share with other business people who might only be 3 or 6 months behind them in their own sort of pathway about how to do things efficiently or to share mistakes they made. And I see the businesses in the LGA, and I think there must be literally tens of thousands of years of collective business running experience on this peninsula. And how do we activate that? I've got some ideas stemming from the digital world, from the startup world, and I actually just kicked off just a bit of an experiment, an online network using a platform that some of you will be familiar with on the call called Slack. Basically a topic-based private community where you might join a Brookvale channel, or you might join a hospitality channel, and you could say, for example, hey, I'm looking for somewhere to get frozen berries or frozen fruit. And someone goes, oh, hey, I know someone who does that. Or I'm looking to get some training in Microsoft Excel. And someone chimes in and says, hey, I know someone who can do that. And I just think this shared knowledge and this collaboration can really lift us up and out of this COVID-19 crisis pandemic situation that we found ourselves in. And there are a lot of people, in fact, I think most small business owners are willing to give a leg up to those people who are behind them or earlier on in their journey. So yeah, really keen to do that in DY and across the broader Northern Beaches.
Sounds good.
Sue, were you going to add anything?
Ben for Mayor. That's all I heard.
I think what Ben's talking about is something that Northern Beaches had really vibrant networking groups in the past, had very vibrant chambers, but the small business economy has been a real challenge the last few years. And at the moment, so many small businesses are in a whole world of pain. And I know that from a council perspective, they're really trying to pull out the stops to be as supportive to as many on the small business community as possible. There is a huge need, and I certainly get contacted virtually daily for the ability for business owners to physically get together. And I know that then will be much more of that virtual world. But there is a real sense of being in it together once you physically get together. So that's something I'm actually looking forward to doing very shortly once we're able to. I'll keep it at that.
And Louise, one thing to answer Matt's question, which ties in youth and entrepreneurialism, is that council, I think at the end of this month, has sponsored prize money of up to $10,000. 69 entrants, all youth, all school kids, have put their ideas together to pitch for a whole bunch of startups, and 6 finalists. James Griffin, the local member for Manly, plus 7 Mile, which is another support business that council's helped foster up there at the old Seaforth TAFE. We've got all this and we're doing it and we're connecting the youth, and it's a really amazing experience. And it's being advertised. I think it's for a live audience because we have to do it online. But hey, today's order's changed. We might be able to go and do it at Glen Street Theatre. Who knows? But we are trying these things, and it comes back to Emily's point earlier. Like, how do we connect it? Do we have to go fishing for this, or do people come to us? And it's a really hard thing. But especially when council's been transitioning into, they've been coming together as the 3 old councils into one. But we're now starting to hit our straps, which is really positive, and things like that are happening. So I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, and not only that, Councillor Sarah Grattan, who's on the Your Northern Beaches independent team, just recently, off her own bat, helped the HSC students who were really struggling with the lockdown, and helped put all the school captains in touch and actually empowered them to lobby the state government. And they got on the radio and they actually got the study bubble that you might have heard of. So that's sort of something that, an individual councillor can actually do just off their own bat. So without the whole monolith of council structure, people in the community that are listening can actually use their leadership to empower the youth. And I think, as far as their mental health goes, this would have been absolutely huge for all those kids that are going through such a difficult time with the HSC at the moment. And I think she did an extraordinary job with that. So, and then your other question was live music, Matt. As someone who spent all my misspent youth at live music gigs, and I still do, I'm so passionate about really supporting the live music industry locally. There is a Brookvale master plan going on at the moment, and I'm very, very interested in that. I know we've all been connected with the people in Brookvale who are hoping to get a vibrant arts and music scene going there. I think DY probably does have some opportunity to increase the amount of live music as well. I spent a lot of time at DY Hotel seeing major acts when I was young, and I'm so sad that my kids don't get to experience that now. I don't think we'll ever get that back as such, but I think a successful society just really needs a healthy art and culture sector. It's sort of why we live. It's sort of that's the whole reason that we live, is to enjoy ourselves and appreciate art, music, culture. So everything else might be running smoothly, but unless we're actually able to enjoy those things, and especially locally, then it's all been for nothing. So on that point, one of the reasons I decided to stand was I remember talking to a live music venue operator in Brookvale, and he was having trouble with his occupational health and safety and ended up having to close down. And I just thought at the time, I didn't know what was going on with council, and I was too busy at the time, but I thought, I wonder if there's anything someone could do in council just to give him the help he needed to get things going. Anyway, he's still operating, but in a different venue. Okay, so what's next? We're getting through it actually. What have we got? 6 minutes left. So traffic, noise, music, arts, small business support. So we got a couple of late people that registered.
Pedestrian crossing?
What's that?
Pedestrian
Oh
crossing?
yes, the pedestrian crossing, at United Petrol Station at Pacific Parade. That was John McNulty.
And Ben Grozio.
And Ben Grozio.
Yeah. So John, did you want to speak to that? No. Ben, did you want to speak to it, and then I can?
Look, I can take it as an objective and opinion as I can. I'll try to take an objective opinion here, and that's to say that 400 metres up the road from Pacific Parade, there's 3 young children who are saying to the team before it'll be the last road that they're allowed to cross on their own on their pathway to the beach, because it's a busy road. Probably the 2 things that scare me most as a very laid-back parent is the water and the road. And yeah, but look, this is not unique to Pacific Parade, but the roundabout there, you need to look about 7 different directions. People make last-minute decisions to put blinkers on. People prop, people accelerate. Look, I might advocate for people just to slow down in general, rather than have specific opinions about specific pedestrian crossings. And in our in the, let's call it the basins, the freshwater basins, the Curl, the Abbott roads at Curl, the freshwater basin, the middle of DY, I don't see any real requirement to travel more than 30-40 k's an hour. I'll leave it there.
So Michael, if someone wanted to get something like that done, what would the process be?
Yeah, you simply write to the council. So it doesn't have to be me, just write to the council, and then staff will report, say, yeah, that's fine. They'll tell you it's either on a list or it's not on a list. If it's going to go on a list, how to get there. So essentially you write to us, then we explain what the process is. Most of the time they're elevated to investigation straight away. So there's a lot of data, in particular in DY. I can tell you with that one specifically, I think it's part of the broader plan through DY to roll out. So I mentioned Avon Road up there before. That's definitely been looked at outside of both sides, the church there at Oaks and Pacific, both sides. So it's been looked at. Pacific, I thought, was another one. I think Clyde or another one further down. They're all being looked at, and I think they're all potentially funded and ready to roll out by Christmas. So hopefully Pacific Parade's on there. Happy to follow that one up. But it's just a simple matter of writing to us. And then if you don't like the answer, you write to your councillor.
Yeah, and it's really easy to find the address. You just Google in Northern Beaches Council, and it's right there at the front. So I would really encourage you all to write to council and find out the answers to the things you don't understand, because that's what I've actually done over the years, and that's why I actually understand the good job that council has done in many respects. Not perfect, as Michael says, there's always room for improvement, but I would encourage everyone to make an effort to actually get answers to your questions, and if you can't get answers, that's what your councillors are for, to follow up for you. Okay, we've got 2 minutes. I think we might just quickly go to misinformation on social media, just very quickly. Michael, Regan, you might like to quickly do that one, because you're often a victim of it.
I thought there was a hand up. Denise, somebody? Denise? Yeah, there is. Good.
Denise, okay.
Yeah, I just get really annoyed about people who rabbit on social media about, before they've even tried to find out who's responsible for what they're whinging about. And I just think that there should be a little bit more. I can see Sue laughing, but I'm very passionate about people finding out as much as they can before they become a keyboard warrior. And if I can just say,
half of those keyboard warriors are councillors, aren't they?
And I won't answer that, but we've lived in 4 local government areas, all of them in the eastern suburbs, before we took the grand step to come over the bridge. And we have never, despite being involved in the community, and I mean very heavily involved in the community, running local groups, we've never had as much information given to us and the opportunity to participate as much. I think some of the council judging panels made me survive lockdown. But just how can we temper some of the social media stuff and make sure that it's corrected? And, you know, do we just put, can someone at, hashtag Northern Beaches Council respond to this, or?
So Ben, you run that's a good point, Ben.
Yeah.
And you run a Facebook page and you see a lot of the rubbish that comes up.
Yeah, I'm happy to
8:30, Ben, so
speak.
you've got to be quick.
What's that?
It's 8:30, so you've got to be quick.
Yeah, I'll be quick.
Yeah,
happy to speak, lad. And I've often described, and I like I said, I accidentally, because of a chicken, found myself in this position. But I think some of the owners of these Facebook groups are kind of positioned as unelected sort of leaders of the community, and I don't necessarily think that's right. But they do ultimately bring together very opinionated, very engaged people into one spot, and there are positives around that, but they can spiral out of control. Now, I'll give myself a pat on the back to say that a good number of people have complimented the way that Facebook group has been moderated over in the past around keeping things friendly and polite and shutting down things that are defamatory and things that are unpleasant. But I think the most important thing is to educate, and it's to acknowledge that this is where the people who care the most about their community and have the most time and energy to contribute a voice are in 2021 letting that voice be known and letting it be heard. And so Michael, when you say about do you have a staff member patrolling social media all day, maybe there is some consideration that needs to be given to looking at the sheer high level of activity that goes on social media. As far as the question from Denise around the keyboard warriors, I think it's the same as being behind a steering wheel, being behind a keyboard. Any large impediment, which means that people don't actually have to look someone in the eye to have an uncomfortable conversation, they will hide behind it and they will sound off. I don't know what to do about that.
Yeah, thanks. I know, sorry, Louise, I think Sue wants to probably jump in because there was also Denise was mentioning the stuff that gets said about the councils themselves can put up in Facebook forums, and it's not factual and it's a sort of opinion, and it's very hard to capture. And councils have had social media policies, and local government's trying to implement a social media policy more broadly speaking. But yeah, I mean, and what I was saying before is they're not monitoring just me. I mean, council staff member to monitor all the stuff that comes up on there. Hey, council, can you do this or look at that? That's what it's about. But that's $100,000 a year for a staff member, and resources. And is it a good? It actually could be a good thing. It's just Denise's point and your point. Everyone uses it. And so, did you want to add anything or?
Yeah, just very briefly, because I get where the question's coming from. And it's also an opportunity. So quite often a discussion will start like it did, I think, yesterday about a whole heap of rubbish that was left on a property, and the person made a general comment. And of course, we're all pretty horrified with the amount of rubbish being left behind. It's trying to educate people as to different things that can be done. So I think the photo, it looked to me like it was actually on private property, not on public land. But at the moment, as we know, people are picnicking virtually everywhere anyway. So it's hard when you're sometimes tagged into multiple groups and trying to join in and see what the conversation is. But it's an absolute opportunity to try and educate people as to the right way of trying to get things addressed as well. And in all honesty, the community is the council's eyes and ears. This morning, there was a horrendous amount of trees being cut down in a property up north. And we need the community to tell us what is happening, because council can't be everywhere, but you guys are our eyes and ears. And we need to hear when there's something that's not right. If there's some kind of strange liquid going into the local lagoon, or runoff coming off a building site, or trees being cut down that you don't think are the right trees. Yeah, we really need the community to let us know as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Sue. And yeah, I would just back that up and say that, I'd seen so much misinformation on social media, by some elected people, and I would say to Michael, I just read this on social media, what's going on? And Michael would actually tell me what was actually going on. And that was part of the idea of tonight, was to actually hear what's going on. And if all of you have heard facts that, you know, you didn't know before, hopefully you'll go and tell other people. And when other things are brought up on social media that aren't true, you'll be able to set them straight. So this is the start of a process where we can, you know, these conversations are really important. And if you've got questions, please ask. That's the whole purpose of, you know, council and councillors. It's like they're there to serve you. So don't be afraid to
be
ask.
educated. Help to be educated and to educate. Narrabeen Lagoon's the one that sticks out for me. Everyone's an expert on Narrabeen Lagoon. Doesn't matter how many videos we put up there or that, or Coleroy Seawall. Hey, Louise, sorry to interrupt, but I'm really keen to hear last words from people like David Borgness and Alex, who previously had his hand, but wanted to say something further. But I also want to make sure that John McNulty got his answer. Did he hear his answer previously about the pedestrian crossing or not? Because I can quickly answer that again if not, but otherwise I'd like to hear David and Alex speak, and then maybe we finish on a topic about what's so good about DY. Everything really, but anyway, apart from that. What do you think?
Well, is everyone happy to hang around for a few more minutes?
Yeah, and I'm happy to comment and just summarise one thing, which is, I'm speaking on behalf of myself and a very large group of people which I've socially activated to help educate the council on what's taking place with regards to a particular issue. And guys, I do hope that you guys will try and connect with your community in a bigger way. I do hope also that you take on board and you look at a compromise which will be all about change, but change that functionally works. And
okay, thanks, Dave. I think that's really what we're attempting to do tonight, but we might have to cut you off there because it's getting late and Michael wanted to hear from, who was it?
Alex, wasn't it? Alex.
Well, as an immigrant, what I like about DY, about DY in Australia, the community involvement that I have, that I actually have those kind of meetings. I would never have been able to have these kind of meetings in Europe. I like the lifestyle. I like the northern beaches. I think I found the country for the rest of my life. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Thanks, mate. And did John get his answer?
Pardon?
No, thank you, Alex. I was just asking if John got his answer. That was all. Thank you. Okay, Louise, over to you.
That was the pedestrian crossing one. He's not here.
No, he's off.
No, this is John McGee. I'm not the pedestrian crossing guy.
Hi, John.
Sorry, John.
All for the Strand, though.
Yeah, he was here for the Strand. He used to come to see the bands with me at DY Hotel back in our youth, so I know what he's about.
Right, there you go. Okay.
Okay, well, I think on that note, I hope that's been a really positive experience for everyone. It's obviously just the beginning of, this conversation that we want to keep going. We're really keen to hear your feedback on how this ran. We are just sort of learning as we go, so we'll probably send you an email and ask for a bit of feedback if you don't mind, and we hope to do this again before too long.
Thank you, Louise.
Thanks everyone
Louise.
for your time. It's been awesome. Thanks for your
Emily, I want to hear from you tomorrow about the DY Surf Club and the painting and stuff. Call me, email me.
Will do.
I'll give you some good motivation with some really good groups we've helped just recently, like DY Soccer Club, Worms, Bees, Trees. Amazing what they just did with what the sort of initiative you're talking about, and Zero Emissions North. They just set up this amazing thing off the back of talking to council. You've got some ideas we can help energise it. So love to hear from you, Emily.
Okay, fantastic. I'll speak to you soon. Thanks, Michael.
So yeah.
Thanks, everyone.